Hello there guys, it's Joey and these are some more requested items for the store. So the items in front of you were a request, but I'm going to make each of them a single item available on store after the request as well, because the items are actually from the Dark Crow of War spell range, which was and is an existing brand that I wish to take further anyway, and in the new year I was planning on looking at that and reevaluating certain brands within Starry-Eyed Supplies and taking them forward a little bit more. So I had a request to do 2 pillars, a cauldron and a herbal powder that a little bit can be carried with when needed. So there are 2 pillars to the individual whose order it is. It's just the second one's in the wash, so to speak. It's being made, being created, being imbued, but we only need one to show you what it looks like. And I really wanted these items to be great standalone items as well, because I was thinking, you know, I really want this as one of my brands because it's one of my personal favourite products, the Crow of War and the Dark Crow of War. So the Dark Crow of War is a serious power, a serious spell work. It builds on the already potent energies of Crow of War and adds a further burst of energy from the Dark Goddess aspect of Morrigan, Goddess Morrigan. It is imbued for herself and her warlike energies, and epitomises the idea of crows being present on the battlefield. It's an energy for war, victory, personal success, success in battles of all kinds, but particularly legal battles and the like, where manipulation is getting in the way of justice. It can be used for battling one's inner demons, for the spiritual warrior in aiding them to drive out all negative, harmful and evil energies or entities. Helps you in battles where righteous anger is on your side. Dark Crow is the final blow of the blade of the Goddess Morrigan for serious situations which must meet their end. It's not a play energy, you know how some of them are kind of whimsy and some have a little bit of a funness, yeah, not this one. This is like, right, we need to get this done, it needs to be sorted, we're not taking any crap, it needs to just stop, just be done, just be finished. I've had enough of this ongoing conflict. This conflict needs to be put to the sword for her wrath you cannot afford. I love that. I that's one of my lines that I often use to describe the Goddess Morrigan, like, you cannot afford her wrath. And the level of protection and finality that she brings to certain spellworks and certain situations, she will just end them if she's had enough of this situation, whether you're ready for that situation to be fully realised and over or not. Usually it's a bad habit type thing that you're doing to yourself, battling your own demons, which is one of the energies for which this is really good. When you're breaking yourself out of bad cycles, breaking yourself out of bad habits, you're engaging in negative behaviour which is detrimental to the self and to others. So gambling, for example, or it can be something as basic as always rising when people are pressing your buttons, you know, always losing your temper when certain things are being played. And this sort of energy is like, you know what, that needs to stop, that needs to get to the blade, it needs to end, it needs to stop. There is a wonderful justice weaving throughout this, and I talk about the righteous fury and the righteous anger a fair bit with Morrigan, because that is a theme and it definitely runs through sets such as these. We have talked about the Dark Crow energy before, but I think it's worth reiterating, particularly because these are serious spell items. These are not messing around. These are just, you know, they'll get a situation done and we're finished and we'll end and that's it. You can use it for a warlike protection energy as well, particularly if you're on the spiritual warrior path. Not everybody is, and it's absolutely fine, but for those of us who feel that we are spiritual warriors and we do feel inclined to protect and battle our way through difficult life circumstances, it can sometimes require a little bit of an elevation in terms of protection work. And this can come from our own selves. We sometimes need protecting from our own natures, that we give too much of ourselves, we bleed ourselves basically, and in war it's disastrous if you think about it. Bleeding out and you're gonna fall flat on your face and lose. And so if you're bleeding yourself out in situations that needs to stop, this is a really good energy for dealing with that as well. So the spell oil is already available on store as a singular item. I know that the individual wanted one of those, but I'm going to put them up as all individual items so I can reload the stock once you have had your items, and I'll make sure you get your items first. You know, I'll tell you, and we'll make them available just for you, and then they'll be available en masse afterwards. So the remakes will be available. They won't be exactly the same, but you know, well, it's the cauldrons that look slightly different. The rest is probably pretty much as is. And seeing as we mentioned the cauldron, let's start there. I think it's a good place to start in describing and ascribing colour magic. So I was sat, and I meant to do this yesterday so it would be ready for the first, and I was like, it's just not quite there yet. It's just not quite. And these things, you have to align them with the energies going on around you. And so today it flowed. It just flowed. It just was like, right, and then yesterday it just wouldn't. So obviously it had to be today. It had to be these energies that are present. And I really like the idea of having the white on the outside, which seemed a little bit odd at first, because I was like, I kind of want a white cauldron, and is that going to work with the crow imagery? Because obviously crow imagery are, you know, generally speaking, we're going with a black motif with crow energy. But if you think about hooded crows, there is an energy of white crow in there. I'm surrounded by white crow imagery right now, and white is one of the original death colours, as well as being very much tied to Babe, or the crone aspect of the Morrigan. And that's all about battlefields. It's all about putting things to death. So having that white crow imagery there, it worked really well for me. And then having like the void, because that's what it looks like when you're looking at it down the camera like I am right now. It looks like the void, it looks like the cosmos, but it also kind of makes me think Battlefield by Night, that sort of energy, you know, the final breath, the bloodstained battlefield. A little bit macabre, but it works within what we're looking at. So there you go. And this is how these things often work out. We've got two wings. Wing, wing, and like the space down the middle. That's really interesting. That's Mama putting her mark on things. There you go. I'd like to say that's completely by design, but glitter's not that easy to manipulate or create, so that's Mama. So this is the Dark Crow of War powder. This really does look like it's been scooped out of a bloody battlefield and put in a jar. I was like, I was making it and I was like, I know what I want, but that sounds a bit gross, but I want that anyway. I don't care. I want it to be like a bloody battlefield in a bottle. And I was like, sometimes, Joe, sometimes you sound like Mama Morrigan. Yeah. But I really like it. I think it's you can see the crow feather in there. There is, of course, crow feather in there. Wildcrafted crow feather. A little bit of fire, a little bit of blood going on in there. I like it a lot. So you can just take a little pinch, put a little pinch in a sachet, in a bottle. I didn't grind it up too fine, so if you wanted to put it in a pouch, it should be okay. For the person who requested it, I will send you a little something to put it in, seeing as that's what you wanted for. And there will be a decal on top, but the decal is not there yet because I wanted to get the video done. And last but not least is the pillar. It's a big black pillar. Doodle-doo. Right. So, yeah, there you go. You're looking into the fiery eye of death. It again looks quite cosmos-like. I think it looks very nebula-like. You're looking into space, into sort of a blood misty nebula. I think that's what it looks like. And I kind of like it. And crow eye. Crow eye. War crow eye. Red eye. That kind of... yeah. So, here is the story behind why I wanted this to look like this. The visualization is of looking out onto a battlefield and you can see a crow, and the crow is otherworldly. It's not normal. It's bigger than the average crow, and it's very much a war crow, and you can hear it screeching, you can hear it crying, and you see it flying around on the battlefield picking at meat. And it turns its head and looks straight at you. And you can see that this is an otherworldly crow, and you're seeing the cosmos in the eye of this crow, because crow in mythologies, they see past, they see present, they see future. They go beyond the veil, they go through time. They are messengers, they are transformational, they are shapeshifters, they move through the cosmos in a completely different way to human beings, which some might see as unnatural and some might see as magical, and all that history. And then you look into the eye. So there you go. So there will be 2 pillars as requested, and all of the items I'm just going to put them up as singular, and I will send you the links as long as you're happy with it all. So Dark Crow of War spell range will later be available en masse for remakes. Many blessings.